All right, here's the Contemporary Hall of Fame ballot. A lot of managers on there. Ed Manigue, longtime umpire, of course. This is from 1980 into the present. You got to get 12 out of the 16 votes. Lou Piniella last go around in 18, missed by 1. He had 11, so he'll be close here, too. Leland's on the ballot, and, Cito Gaston, who won 2 championships. He's the only one who won the 2 titles, the manager who's on the ballot. Davey only won 1. Piniella only won 1. Most of these managers, Tom Kelly won 2. So Kelly could be on this thing, too. His winning percentage isn't great, but he won the 2 titles. Here's Bob Costas. Him and I are fighting about the whole thing with JFK. Bob's all over that like I am. Yeah. We're having some fun with it, and he says hello. Bob, good afternoon. How are you today, Mr. Costas?
Good.
Things good?
Yeah. First, I should know this, and I should know this, and I apologize, Doug. Are these 8 all grouped together, or will it be a separate election for managers and then the executives and umpires? Or are they voting on all 8 simultaneously? All together. Okay.
All 8
then
simultaneously.
I am with Matt Vasgersian this morning complaining about this. This isn't apples and oranges. It's apples and cantaloupes. And incidentally, I have the same difficulty with the Frick Award. It's very difficult for those of us who vote on the Frick Award when they dump everyone into the same basket. Radio, television, national, local, living, posthumous, analysts and colormen along with play-by-play men. It's almost like saying, here, let's vote for everybody for a gold glove. Shortstops and catchers are in the same category. We all love the Hall of Fame. We all get goosebumps every time we walk through those doors. It means a lot to every baseball fan, and especially to those of us who have some connection to the Hall of Fame. We want it to be as good as it can. The way these ballots are set up, it makes it very frustrating. No matter how diligent you are, if you're a voter, and I'm not in this case, no matter how diligent you are, eventually you throw up your hands in frustration.
Well, I mean, the Hall of Fame, the Frick Award, how do they separate Kuiper and Krukow? They're ballot, they're nominated. They're together. You can't put them separately. That's ridiculous. I mean, you're going to put one in and not the other, and they've been working together as Giants broadcasts forever. If that's the case, you're going to make the guy who doesn't get in feel bad, and the guy who does get in feel guilty. I mean, it's ridiculous to separate a partnership. Gary with Keith and Gary and Ron is a little different, because they rotate the analysts, and Ron's on the TV with you. Yeah. It's not the same with Kuiper and Krukow. They are doing giant games together, so that makes no sense.
No, it's not. It's almost like, and I'm not trying to reduce these guys to comedians, but it's almost like, let's put Abbott in, but not Costello. They're an entry. They're absolutely an entry, and it's very frustrating. And how do you compare, just look at that, how do you compare Joe Castiglione all those years as the Red Sox radio guy to Joe Buck, who essentially, although he did some Cardinal games in St. Louis, essentially did national games, including 24 World Series? Again, it's not a knock on the Hall of Fame itself. It's because the Hall of Fame is so important and so wonderful that we would like to get all this stuff properly aligned so that we can do not only a deep dive, but a fair deep dive and vote in an informed way on a ballot that makes complete sense. Not just for the Frick, but what we're talking about now, the Veterans Committee.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't like that either. All right, let's do the managers. It's very difficult to split these. Cito's got 2, we know that, and Tom Kelly has 2. All the other managers only have the 1 championship. You want to separate them that way, go ahead. You got to get the 12 votes. You know who they are. Who would be the guy that you would most lean towards as far as getting into the Hall of Fame as a skipper? Let me hear.
They all had managerial success. I think if we're simply confining it to managing, I think the consensus among baseball people would be that Leland was the best manager of the 4. Yes, he won the 1 World Series with the Marlins. He got to 2 others with the Tigers, and he got very close 3 straight years with the Pirates, came close in at least 1 other LCS with the Tigers against the Red Sox. He's revered among baseball men. So if it's just based on that, fine. But he never played in the major leagues. Whereas Gaston, Piniella, and Davey Johnson have considerable playing resumes. Whether each voter considers that or just simply confines it to the managerial aspect, I think that's up to it individually. But someone like Piniella or Davey Johnson would have a better chance if the playing career is taken into account.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I would, since I don't vote and have to worry about it, I'm not sure. I would think it's a little bit of a tiebreaker, but I wouldn't make too big a deal about it. I'd be most concerned about the championships. Cito, Kelly have 2, and Leland, Piniella, and the rest of them, Davey included, only have 1. Is that a deal breaker for you? Let me hear.
No, it's not a deal breaker, but it's certainly a point in favor of Cito Gaston. Tom Kelly's not on the ballot this time, but certainly when you consider Cito Gaston,
okay,
you have to consider those back-to-back championships with the Blue Jays. That's not insignificant.
Yeah, okay. Kelly's not on this ballot. I must have looked too quickly. Okay, so we don't put him on the ballot there. But Cito's got the 2 in the back-to-back for the Blue Jays. All right, let's go through a couple of others. Hank Peters is 1, and Ed Montague, longtime umpire, is 2. You know, and Joe West is in the mix, too. Joe West just retired, so he's not going to get in that quick. So if they take an umpire, it's going to be Montague. Peters is there, built a lot of good teams, including Cleveland. What's your take with those 2? Let me get your feel there. Go ahead.
Well, Bill Wright is also on the ballot, and the most knowledgeable Costas at the Major League Baseball Network, Keith Costas, earlier today on Hot Stove, laid out a very convincing case for Bill Wright, kind of an across-the-board thing. President of the National League for a while, groundbreaking in that respect. First black play-by-play announcer to be long tenured. His work with the Yankees. He had a very, very good playing career, won 7 Gold Gloves, multiple All-Star, championship team in '64 with the Cardinals. Bill Wright has a very impressive resume. Someday, Joe West is definitely going to get in because he has something that's easy to grasp. He umpired more games than anyone in the history of the game. So Joe West is going to get in eventually. I think if you consider on that basis, he's probably more deserving than Ed Montague. Again, we're splitting hairs here. Montague had a distinguished career. Hank Peters was a very respected front office guy with the Orioles, and this is overlooked by a lot of people. He was in on the ground floor signing guys like, when they signed guys like Tomey and Manny Ramirez with the then Cleveland Indians. You know, John Hart comes in and takes it to the next level, and they had a good strategy, and they built a team for sustained success in the 90s. But Hank Peters had something to do with that on the ground floor. So, again, you can make a very good case for all of these guys, but I would think taking it in its totality, the way I would look at it, with respect to everybody else, I'd vote for Leland on the one hand and Bill Wright on the other.
100% right on Bill Wright. That's my era. I should have mentioned. Absolutely. Bill was a very good player, National League president, a very good announcer, long distinguished career. I am with you 1,000% on Bill Wright. The manager is tricky. I'm with you. I think Leland is probably, out of the 8 or whatever candidates we have here, he's probably the best one. Cito does have the 2, though, and I do like the championships. Leland a little unlucky. He could have gotten 2. Could have beaten the Braves, of course, one of those 2 times. But the 2 titles is significant. Now, Piniella got 11 last time, Bob, so he's only 1 vote shy. Is it normally easier to get that extra vote the next time you're in, or harder? How about that?
Not necessarily, because the electorate is not the same. You know, so when you talk about, let's say on the player side, Billy Wagner got closer, Todd Helton got closer. The electorate is essentially the same when they come back the next year. The Veterans Committee compositions change. So that near miss by Piniella indicates something, but it's not definitive.
Interesting. Okay, so a different voting thing. We know Beltré. I don't know if you've studied the Hall of Fame ballot in January. Is there anybody else there that you like? No question about it. You mentioned Wagner. Todd Helton's another one. You think we're going to get 2? I know I don't necessarily think Wagner and Helton are Hall of Famers, but I do think obviously Beltré is. What's your take on that with the Hall of Fame in January? What do you see there?
Well, Wagner and Helton, I think, will eventually make it. Wagner's an interesting case. It's the rate stats that catch your eye there, and not the cumulative stats. And what he does have working against him, even though it's a small sample size, he was knocked around, never had any success in the postseason. And some people will diminish Helton's numbers because he played in Colorado. That happens with everyone who's considered that played a substantial portion of their career with the Rockies. Beltré is the only cinch. he'll get well over 90% of the votes coming on the ballot for the first time. And then you have the interesting cases. We can't go through all of them. You know, Bartolo Colon wins 247 games. That may be the high water mark. There may not be anybody, not counting Verlander now still active, there may not be anybody who breaks in subsequently who wins that many games because of the way the game has changed. Does that mean that he deserves to be in? No, but it's worth considering. Chase Utley, here's an interesting thing. I don't think anyone ever said, Ron Darling said this yesterday, I don't think anyone ever said Chase Utley is the best player in the game at any point in his career, or one of the 3 or 4 best players in the game. But you would always say, for a considerable number of seasons, he's one of the 10 best players in the game. And I saw a stat yesterday that really surprised me. And again, you could do anything with statistics, but his OPS, his career OPS, is just behind Jackie Robinson. And it's ahead of Hall of Fame second basemen like Joe Morgan and Rod Carew and Roberto Alomar. But of course, those players have other things in their favor, in the favor of their candidacy, that got them into the Hall of Fame that Utley doesn't have. You know, he had the great World Series, the 5 home runs in 2009 for the Phils against the Yankees. He was a hard-nosed player. He's an interesting case. Joe Mauer was on a Hall of Fame track, no question about it. 3 batting titles, an MVP one year where he hit over 360. But much of his career was at first base. If he'd stayed as a catcher and been able to remain injury-free and had a longer career as a catcher, he'd probably be a cinch. That's what makes his candidacy not a cinch, but certainly worthy of consideration. And here's something, another thing that the kind of thing you like, Dog. Since 1900, there have been only 7 instances where a catcher won a batting title, and Mauer has 3 of them. Ernie Lombardi of the old Cincinnati Reds has 2. Buster Posey has 1, and the immortal Bubbles Hargrave won 1 in the 1930s. This is the kind of thing.
The problem I have with Utley, that you come up with. It's good.
Yeah.
The problem with Utley is he doesn't have 2,000 hits. Yeah. It's very difficult to put. He's got 1,800 hits, and you go find me people who were elected by the writers who are in the Hall of Fame who don't have 2,000 hits. It's few and far between. Very hard to find them.
You know, you're right.
You got to have 2,000 hits. Don't you have 2,000 hits?
Yeah, I don't think Utley makes it, certainly not in the first couple of ballots, but I think he will receive some consideration and enough support to stay on the ballot. Another one is David Wright.
Yep.
New York corner infielders compared David Wright to Don Mattingly. It's surprising how favorably Wright compares to Mattingly in many stats. Mattingly was a greater first baseman fielder-wise than Wright was a third baseman. And there was a time when Don Mattingly, just like Dale Murphy or Dave Parker, both of whom aren't in, there was a time when Don Mattingly was smack dab in the middle of the conversation about who was the best player in baseball for a few years. As beloved as David Wright was and as good as he was never that good at his peak. And of course, his career was cut short by injuries as well. But he's an interesting case. There are always these statistical comparisons that you can come up with. I think it was Mark Twain, maybe it was Will Rogers, who the heck cares, who said lies, damn lies, and statistics. And I know it was Vin Scully who said that some people use statistics the way a drunk uses a lamppost for support, not illumination. So you can make almost any case you want for somebody. You can make a case for Bobby Abreu over Al Kaline. It's a case I'm not buying, but you can fiddle with the numbers and make that case.
You sure can, Bob. Great job. Always a pleasure. Keep in touch. Thanks for some help here today.
See you, Dog.